I mean, just imagine being so unimaginably furious at the authority figures in your life that instead of, throwing a tantrum or like writing a strongly worded email, your body just simply short circuits
Mm-hmm.
and you just drop dead on the spot out of
Yeah.
pure, unadulterated spite. Just a total biological rage quit.
Is quite the strategy.
Right. Pull up a stool here. Let me get you a drink. We're gonna have a serious talk tonight.
I'll just set this water down for you right here. It's going to be a long night, so pace yourself.
Yeah, definitely pace yourself. Because if you think your modern dating life is complicated, if you think dealing with stubborn parents or unreasonable bosses or just the general suffocating weight of expectations is tough, you and I need to look at a story tonight.
A very old story.
Exactly. A story so ancient and so beautifully unhinged that it makes our current relationship drama look like, I don't know, child's play. We are doing a deep dive into an ancient Chinese text tonight to extract a hardcore, totally relevant lesson on how to navigate dating and authority.
And we're doing it from the perspective of someone who quite literally bypassed the grave to make her point.
Yeah, exactly. So what are we cracking open tonight?
The text is called the Sushenji, which roughly translates to In Search of the Supernatural. It was compiled by a man named Gan Bao in the 4th century.
Right. And let me just stop anyone right there who hears supernatural and immediately pictures some, like, ancient Chinese Ghostbusters scenario.
It's not that at all.
No, if you're sitting there imagining a cheap paranormal freak show full of zombies and jump scares, you're missing the point entirely. You look closely at this text, and Gan Bao is actually pulling a massive, incredibly dangerous fast one on everybody.
It was a survival tactic, really. You have to understand, Gan Bao lived during the Eastern Jin dynasty,
Right.
which was an era of intense political instability, warfare, and strict autocratic control. If you wrote a straightforward essay criticizing the ruling class, your head would very quickly be separated from your shoulders.
Yeah, that's a quick way to get canceled, literally.
Exactly. But if you wrote a story about a ghost, suddenly you have plausible deniability.
It's genius.
You can critique the absolute power of kings, the cruelty of the system, and the suppression of the individual, all under the guise of a spooky campfire tale. It's a brilliant Trojan horse for social commentary.
It is the ultimate cover story, and tonight we are looking at the absolute crown jewel of that commentary. We're talking about the originator of the human ghost romance genre.
The story of Ziyu.
Right. It's the story of an 18-year-old girl named Ziyu. She was the youngest daughter of King Fuchai of the Wu state. But before we get to the ghost breaking out of tombs and all that, we need to set the scene. You really have to understand the absolute corporate nightmare that was ancient Chinese royal matchmaking.
Well, we're placing ourselves right near the end of the spring and autumn period, roughly the 5th century BCE.
Okay.
The geopolitical landscape is essentially a powder keg. King Fuchai of Wu isn't just a monarch. He's locked in an existential blood feud rivalry with King Gujian of the neighboring Yu state.
Exactly. And I want you to picture King Fuchai not as, like, a guy in a crown with a robe, but as the megalomaniacal, ego-driven CEO of a massive conglomerate.
That's a very accurate way to frame it.
Right. He's looking at the map of ancient China the way a ruthless corporate raider looks at a stock portfolio. He's trying to execute these hostile takeovers of rival states, like Qi and Jin. He wants to be the ultimate industry leader, the undisputed hegemon of his era. And in that boardroom, marriage has absolutely zero to do with love or personal happiness.
Not at all. Marriage, in this context, is a strategic asset restructuring.
It's a merger.
Precisely a merger. King Fuchai's entire state apparatus is geared towards survival and dominance. And his youngest daughter, Ziyu, she isn't just a beloved child.
No, she's leverage.
She is the ultimate billionaire heiress, but her trust fund is geopolitical leverage. Her hand in marriage is a bargaining chip that could secure new military alliances, open up critical trade routes, or literally prevent an invading army from wiping them off the map.
Which makes Fuchai's grand chessboard look completely impenetrable. I mean, he had this massive continent-spanning strategy mapped out.
Yeah.
But he had one fatal blind spot.
He miscalculated.
Big time. He completely miscalculated the one variable he thought he owned outright, which was his daughter's personal life. So, enter the boyfriend, a guy named Han Zong.
Han Zong is 19 years old. He's a student wandering through the states of Qi and Lu, ostensibly seeking an education. And crucially, he has a background in Taoist magic.
Which is such a fascinating detail to me, because let's be real, he has zero money.
Right.
He has zero political power. He has no army. To a guy like King Kuchai, having some skills in Taoist magic is basically useless. It's not going to win a war.
Not in a conventional sense, no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I don't look at Taoist magic back then as some, like, Harry Potter parlor trick.
Mm.
In this highly rigid, rule-bound society, having a grasp on Taoism is more like being an off-the-grid underground hacker in a cyberpunk dystopia.
I like that analogy.
Right. It means you understand the hidden code of the universe that the government just can't regulate.
That is a very sharp way to look at it. Taoism, at its core, emphasizes natural flow, spontaneity, and alignment with the unseen forces of the world.
Which is the total opposite of Fuchai.
Completely.
Yeah.
It stands in direct opposition to the rigid, hierarchical, and frankly oppressive legal and social structures that a king like Fuchai relies on. Fuchai operates on state-level KPIs, key performance indicators for his empire.
Yeah.
Hanzong operates completely outside that grid.
So we have this massive collision course. And I'm looking at this kid's resume, sitting here with my drink, and I just have to ask, why on earth is a completely broke, unpaid intern with a negative bank account trying to date the CEO's daughter?
It does seem foolish.
I mean, look at you sitting there. If you had 20 bucks to your name, would you be trying to lock down a girl whose dad commands a private military? Did Hanzong not understand the concept of dating within his own tax bracket?
He understood it, but the political reality simply didn't register as a barrier to him. This is the collision Gone Bao wants us to see. You have the immovable object of state power meeting the unstoppable force of pure, unfiltered adolescent love. Hanzong is 19. He's operating on the frequency of pure emotion.
Yeah, teenagers.
Right. So he's about to leave for his studies, and he wants to make things official. So he does the traditional thing. He sends his parents to officially propose to King Fuchai.
Which is just insane. He sends his middle-class, nobody parents to the ruthless CEO of the Wu state to ask for the billionaire heiress's hand in marriage.
Yes.
And King Fuchai, completely predictably, loses his absolute mind. He rage quits the conversation before it even begins.
He dismisses them outright. And you have to look at Fuchai's logic here.
Okay, play devil's advocate.
It is perfectly sound from his perspective. He is likely sitting in his palace thinking, I have high-stakes diplomacy with the state of Qi tomorrow. I am trying to prevent King Gujian from slaughtering my people.
Right.
And you want me to give my most valuable geopolitical asset to a broke student who cannot help me win a single battle. It was an insulting proposition to him.
Yeah, absolutely vetoed. Get out of my office. So Hanzong leaves for his study abroad program, but let's look at Ziyu for a second. Because she's 18 years old. She has just been informed that the one thing she wanted in life is completely off the table. And she doesn't just cry. She doesn't lock herself in her room and play the ancient Chinese equivalent of sad acoustic music. As I mentioned earlier, she literally drops dead.
She does.
The text uses a very specific phrase, that she dies of bundled up anger. I mean, imagine a modern teenager getting her phone taken away, but instead of slamming her bedroom door, she just drops dead out of pure spite. That is top-tier pettiness.
Well, let's reframe that slightly. The term is jikisi.
Okay.
This requires a bit of unpacking because it's a profound medical and philosophical concept in ancient China. Qi is the vital energy, the literal life force that flows through the body.
Right, like your energy.
Exactly. Ji means to knot or bundle up. When the text says she died of jikisi, it's arguing that her grief, her suppressed rage, and her absolute lack of agency caused her life force to physically knot up and stop her heart.
Wow. So it's not just a metaphor for being sad. It's a literal physical manifestation of being suffocated by the system.
Precisely. In traditional Chinese medicine, extreme emotional distress stagnates the qi. But philosophically, this is Gan Bao's darkest critique.
How so?
The system King Fuchai built is so rigid, so completely devoid of oxygen for the individual, that an 18-year-old girl's internal energy literally has nowhere to go but to turn inward and destroy her. The autocratic machine doesn't just oppress you from the outside, it causes you to biologically shut down.
Man, that's heavy. But let me play devil's advocate for a second, though, because I'm sitting here listening to this, and part of me thinks, isn't this just romanticizing standard issue teenage angst?
In what way?
I mean, kids dying for love is a trope as old as time. Shakespeare made a whole career out of Romeo and Juliet. Why does Ziyu's death have to be this grand political manifesto about Chinese autocracy? Couldn't she just be a dramatic teenager who couldn't handle a breakup?
It's a fair question, but you have to look at what her body represented in that specific society. Romeo and Juliet were caught in a family feud. Ziyu was caught in a totalitarian state apparatus.
Ah, yeah.
In ancient China, the Confucian ideal of filial piety was absolute. The saying was literally, if a ruler wants a subject to die, the subject must die. If a father wants a son to die, the son must die.
Wow, brutal.
Ziyu didn't own her body. Her father owned it. The state owned it. By allowing her bundled-up anger to kill her, she has taken the only action left available to her.
Which is what?
She is destroying state property. It is the ultimate rejection of her father's authority. She removes herself from his chessboard permanently.
Okay, when you put it like that, it's chilling. She had no moves left, so she just flipped the board.
Exactly.
You'd think that would be the end of it, right? Tragic end, roll the credits. But we're talking about the Soshin Ji. Death in this book is basically just an inconvenience. It's barely the end of Act 1.
Not even close to the end. 3 years pass. Han Zheng finishes his studies in Xianlu. He returns to the state of Wu entirely unaware of what happened.
Oh, man. Poor guy.
He probably expects to find Ziyu waiting for him, perhaps older, maybe they can finally run away together. Instead, he discovers that his fiancée is now a tomb.
The guy is just devastated. He goes to the royal burial grounds, and he is just sobbing his eyes out into the dirt. And this is where the story shifts gears completely into the supernatural. Because Ziyu's ghost doesn't just, float around looking pale and ethereal.
No, she doesn't.
She physically manifests from the grave. And instead of haunting him or giving him some sad speech about moving on, she grabs him and she pulls him down into the dirt, into the tomb with her.
And they stay there for 3 days and 3 nights. The text is very explicit. They fulfill the rites of husband and wife, drinking, feasting, and consummating their marriage right there inside the burial chamber.
I am sorry, but this is the part where my brain just hits a wall.
The logistics.
Yes, I'm looking at the physics of this situation. I mean, so the ultimate long-distance relationship is just separated by 6 feet of dirt. How does a ghost even pour a drink?
It's a different kind of physics.
Are they sitting cross-legged in a coffin? If she's dead, how are they sharing a meal? How does an ancient Chinese ghost actually interact with a living, breathing 19-year-old?
It's a great question, and it actually reveals a lot about how the ancient Chinese viewed the afterlife. In their lore, the boundary between the yin, the realm of the dead, and the yang, the realm of the living, wasn't an impenetrable wall.
Okay.
Ghosts were believed to have a subtle physical form. They don't physically chew and digest the material of the food or the liquid of the wine. Instead, they consume the qi, the vital essence of the offering.
Wait, really? So they eat the energy?
Precisely. If a living person drank a cup of wine after a ghost was finished with it, the liquid would still be there, but it would taste like flat tap water. The flavor, the spirit of the alcohol has been consumed.
That is wild. So she's interacting with the essence of the physical world.
Yes, and she is doing it through sheer force of will. This is where Han Zhong's background in Taoist magic subtly comes into play.
Oh, right, the hacker magic.
Exactly. His openness to the unseen world, combined with her absolute refusal to accept the reality her father forced upon her, creates a localized anomaly. Love's sheer obsession managed to completely shatter or dimensionally reduce the boundary between life and death.
It's crazy.
The tomb, which Fuchai intended to be a symbol of finality and despair, is hijacked. Ziyu transforms it into a bridal chamber.
It's the ultimate subversion. Fuchai put her in a box to end the problem, and she turned it into a honeymoon suite.
She did.
But obviously, a living guy can't stay in a tomb forever. After 3 days, Han Zhong has to go back to the surface. And when it's time to part, Ziyu doesn't just give him a kiss goodbye.
No, she gives him proof.
Right. She hands him a massive, flawless pearl, a full inch in diameter. And she explicitly tells him, take this to my father. Tell him what happens.
This is a crucial detail. That pearl isn't just a piece of jewelry. It is a royal burial good. It is a priceless artifact placed in the tomb of an imperial daughter.
Right. And Han Zhong, bless his heart, is apparently the most honest, naive guy in the entire spring and autumn period.
He is very straightforward.
Because he actually listens to her. He takes this giant glowing pearl, walks right up to the palace gates, and demands an audience with the terrifying King Fuchai.
He walks straight back into the lion's den.
Picture the scene in that throne room. This kid, the broke intern who was laughed out of the room 3 years ago, shows up holding the dead princess's priceless burial jewelry.
It doesn't look good.
No. And he basically says, hey, Your Majesty, yeah, your ghost daughter gave this to me after we partied in her tomb for 3 days. Just wanted to clear the air. I mean, naturally, Fuchai thinks he's a grave robber.
Because that is the only logical conclusion a man like Fu Chai can process. Fu Chai does not believe in the power of love transcending death.
Of course not.
He doesn't believe in Taoist metaphysics or the strength of a young girl's soul. He believes in power, leverage, and theft. He sees a peasant holding a piece of royal treasure. In Fu Chai's worldview, everything has a price, and everything can be stolen.
So Fu Chai doesn't hesitate. He doesn't ask for an investigation or CSI to dust for prints. He immediately orders Han Zong to be executed, drag him out to the courtyard, off with his head.
Immediate execution.
And right as Han Zong is about to be killed, right as the executioner's sword is practically raised in the air, Ziyu pulls her biggest, most audacious stunt yet.
She leaves the tomb again, but this time she isn't hiding in the shadows of a graveyard. She physically manifests right in the center of the royal palace.
She shows up while her dad is doing his morning grooming routine.
Yes.
He is sitting there getting his hair combed, plotting how to, ruin the economy of the U state, and suddenly, boom! His dead daughter is standing right there in the mirror.
And pay attention to her demeanor here. She doesn't fall to her knees. She doesn't weep or beg for mercy. She confronts him as an equal.
She completely reads him the riot act. She says, you ruined my reputation. You ruined my life by rejecting Han Zong. I am the one who gave him the pearl. He is no thief. Leave him alone.
It's incredible.
Think about the sheer guts that takes. She's 18 years old, she's dead, and she is openly lecturing the most feared warlord in the region in front of his entire staff.
It is a breathtaking moment of defiance. She is claiming her absolute truth in the very epicenter of patriarchal power. The king's authority means nothing to her anymore.
Now here's where the story gets incredibly heartbreaking, where Gambao delivers his final blow. Ziyu's mother, the king's wife, is in the room.
She is.
She hears her daughter's voice. She turns around, sees her baby girl standing there back from the dead, and maternal instinct just takes over. She runs forward to hug her. But the exact second the mother tries to wrap her arms around her daughter, well, what happens?
The text uses 4 characters. Yu Rian ran. It means jade like smoke. The moment the mother tries to embrace her, Ziyu turns into a wisp of smoke and dissipates entirely.
Just gone, like
Yeah.
vapor, leaving her parents standing there, grasping at empty air. Why? Why couldn't she just let her mom hug her?
Because a hug implies a reunion. It implies a return to normalcy, to the family unit. But that family unit was a toxic, oppressive structure that literally killed her.
Wow.
You cannot embrace a system that suffocated you. Furthermore, look at the metaphor of jade-like smoke. Jade is the ultimate symbol of imperial power in ancient China.
Right, the Emperor's Stone.
Yes, it is hard, enduring, and it belongs to the ruling class. Smoke is ephemeral, untouchable, impossible to cage. By turning from jade into smoke, she transforms from an imperial asset into something they can never, ever control again. The illusion of a happy family breaks because the damage was permanent.
Man, she came, she said her piece, and she left on her own terms. The story essentially ends right there, right? We don't get a reaction shot from Fu Chai. We don't know how Han Zong walked out of that courtyard, though presumably his life was spared.
Yes, Ganbao just leaves us staring at that dissipating smoke.
And that ambiguity is intentional.
The focus isn't on what the king does next. The focus is on the profound statement Ziyu made.
So let's synthesize what we've actually just witnessed tonight. When you strip away the ancient setting, the robes and the swords, Ziyu didn't come back as a ghost to exact some bloody horror movie revenge.
No, not at all.
She didn't come back to haunt her father's dreams. She came back for 2 very specific, highly principled reasons. First, to fulfill her romantic promise to the man she loved. And second, to protect that man's life from the tyrannical authority of her father.
Precisely. This isn't a spooky ghost story at all. It is a hardcore, unflinching narrative of teenage rebellion.
The original rebel.
Exactly. In an era where the foundational rule of society was total submission to authority, an 18-year-old girl used her own death and her afterlife to reclaim her bodily and romantic autonomy.
She weaponized her own ghost. She literally found a loophole in the system of life and death just to stick it to the man.
She did. The smoke she turned into wasn't a sign of weakness or disappearance. It was the gentlest yet most resolute and devastating act of defiance against absolute authority.
Wow.
She looked her father in the eye and essentially told him, "You can dictate the borders of your empire, you can command armies, but you have absolutely zero jurisdiction over my soul."
You can't even touch me. It's
Yeah.
incredibly powerful. It completely invalidates his entire worldview.
And it forces anyone listening to this story, whether in the 4th century or sitting at a bar today, to question the systems of authority they operate under. What are the modern equivalents of Fuchai's suffocating KPIs?
That's the real question.
What parts of our own autonomy do we voluntarily surrender just because a parent, a boss, or society tells us we have to fall in line?
Which brings me right back to you, sitting here across the bar. We started tonight talking about your life. You know, the texts you leave on read, the compromises you make at work to keep a toxic boss happy.
The daily surrenders.
Yeah, the way you might let family expectations dictate who you date, what you study, or how you live. I want you to really think about Ziyu. Think about an 18-year-old girl staring down a warlord.
An incredibly brave soul who refused to let the world knot up her spirit.
Exactly. I want you to finish that drink, step out into the night, and let this one final thought sink in. If an 18-year-old girl from thousands of years ago was willing to literally break out of her own grave, shatter the laws of physics, and fight a king just for her right to choose who she loves, what is your excuse for settling for anything less in your own life? Have a good night. We'll see you next time.